The title of this podcast is What Are Your Habits? Uh, Man, there is something about having to like watch your own video footage, right? There's something about that that I think is pretty informative. For a lot of people, it could be, some vanity there. And I think for Keith 1.0, it certainly was. I'd watch video. How many times did I say, how many times did I stutter? What's going on with like my smile and all of this stuff that would be going on? Well, there's that, which is the surface considerations, which don't mean anything. But there's the other part of the video that I would be interested in as Keith 2.0. And that's different from what Keith 1.0 would be interested in. Keith 1.0 would be looking at the video and saying, did I say that correctly? Was I articulate? Did what I said, did it resonate, with what I was trying to tell people? Did it make sense? Right. And then there's the other part of it that Keith 2.0 would be looking at is what you're saying, are you living it? Like that's what 2.0 would be interested in. Like it would be really it'd be asking, Keith, what are your habits? And I look back at Keith 1.0 and what were my habits, which directly correlate with what I'm experiencing in life. So, and which would be, and when I would look at those habits that are correlating to my experience in life, it would be hard for me if I'm being aware to ignore that I'm responsible for a great deal of, my habits or getting or not getting what I want out of life. So here's an example. As Keith 1.0, I was often bothered by something that was going on. I was a grievance looking for a cause. What were my habits? I complained and judged all the time. If something wasn't to my liking, I had something to say about it. If somebody did something, it didn't have to be to me. It could be something in the news or the headlines. I had an opinion about it. So what was my experience of life? It was a lot of suffering. I didn't think it was suffering back then because I was so identified with how I was showing up in life, so identified with my narratives of my mind about what was wrong and what was missing, that I didn't think I was suffering. I was like, man, it's just a tough day. Like, I can't believe this is like happening. It was that kind of conversation. Like I'm oblivious of my role in experiencing what's going on. Like I think I am almost like a victim of what's happening. Like I have no responsibility. I've taken no responsibility at what I'm experiencing. But every moment of every day, I have a choice of what I experience internally. And when I look at my habits, if I can gain leverage over those, if I can dictate what my habits are going to be, it's going to directly change how I experience life. A lot of people that when they get into a groove of exercise, they talk about how much better they feel. I mean, we can start off with you're making progress toward a goal, something that you said you want to do. So that boosts your self-confidence. That helps, increase the integrity of your word to be healthier, to be more fit. So it does those things. In addition, there could potentially be the aesthetic benefits of the way you being more pleased with the way you look. So there's that. But the other thing that happens is that people that once they start to be consistent with working out, it starts to become autopilot for them. And so, but there's a lot of time spent on working on ourselves for the physical part, the physical form. But in my case, very little time was spent on the internal side, like not the mental side of adding more knowledge and learning more skills and to be applied to a career or to some kind of vocation. Not that. That has its place, but that won't necessarily bring me joy. It could be a tool to experience joy, but that won't bring me joy. This has to have its origins within in my consciousness. And so when I started to create some different habits about I'm going to be kind and make it non-negotiable, then that changes things. Like no matter what shows up, I'm going to be kind. Same thing with working out. I'm going to work out in the morning, no matter what happens. I get 2 hours of sleep. I toss and turn all night. It doesn't matter. I'm getting up and working out. And that's what I've done over the last 25 plus years, almost 30 years. When I say I'm getting up to work out, I get up and work out. Doesn't matter what's going on. I've taken that same kind of commitment to habit because I understand the benefits to my life. I've taken that same kind of commitment toward working on me internally. And in doing so, I have gotten more benefit from that than any squat or push-up that I ever, or ab exercise I've ever done for myself. This has given me much more joy, much more peace. And so, what are your habits? Like whatever you're experiencing in life, I argue that it's correlated to your habits. If you watch the video and you were just followed around for a day, how many times, and we could actually hear your thoughts, how many complaints are there? How much judgment is going on? How much are you saying what you like and don't like, or what shouldn't be happening? And then take that, like rate that, and let's see if there's a correlation to how much suffering that you're experiencing. Even if you're unaware of it, how much of that are you experiencing? And then on the flip side, if you're being kind, you're being grateful, you acknowledge other people for the many ways in which they've contributed to your life during that day. You are expressing compassion and empathy for others. You're serving. Now take those habits, which you work on every single day, that over time, it won't even occur as habits. It just occurs as this is what I do. Take that, and what's a correlation with how much peace and joy you experience in your life? And what you'll find is if you create the latter as your habits, you won't experience stress anymore. Stressful situations might show up. You won't experience them that way, though. They'll just be situations. The stressful part, the adjective, will fall away. And that's what started to happen to me. When I'm being conscious in the present moment, there are no problems, there are no dramas. There may be situations that require my attention, but if I'm rooted in a peaceful space, what's going to happen is I'm going to respond with intelligent action. Most recently, my friend Tim was taking his daughter to Alabama because that's where she's going to go to school in the fall, the University of Alabama. And in doing so, he has a practice in place. And so they get to Dallas and the flight is delayed. Well, it ends up being a 2-day delay. And she's got orientation scheduled when she gets to Alabama. And there are no rental cars in Dallas. So they wait to 2 days, hoping a rental car becomes available. But the flights are canceled for 2 more days. So they drive to Alabama. The whole time, he's not complaining at all. He's saying, man, I get this time with my daughter. She's leaving home to go across the country to go to school. And I get to spend this connected time with her. Like, how do we make the best of this? What are places that we can stop along the way? This is part of the country that I would never see, if I was in a plane. Instead, I get to drive with her. Like, that's a person who has different habits. Rather than complaining about a situation that's out of their control, like canceled flights or delays, or there not being a rental car. That's a guy who gets it. And he's made up his mind that he wants to experience life in a different way. So he started looking at his habits. And so I encourage you to look at your habits. Are your habits ones that result in more peace and joy in your life? I'm happy to say that mine are now, not Keith 1.0, but mine are now. And I'm also clear that if I stop doing what I'm doing now, those habits will fall away and I'll start to go right back to my default settings of complaining, of being stressed out, of worrying, of being too tired, of being anxious and just being over it. That's one way to live. That's one way to do it. But there's also another way. So just check in on your habits.